a
don't
lot
think
of
that,
the
like,
fear mongering comes from the fact that people are scared to acknowledge, and this is the truth, that sometimes conservatives are just right. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes they're actually correct. Like, for example, this is my personal view. I don't think that children should have to question their gender and have to choose what gender they are when they're children. I don't think I fundamentally disagree with that, right?
but some authentically do. Some children, like,
I don't
trans
believe that's
children, like,
possible. I
do.
don't believe a child knows any enough about their gender and their sexuality to do that. And furthermore, I come from a cultural background where that is just unthinkable. That is absolutely so unthinkable. Like the culture that I come from, if that was forced on us, right? And that's what they were teaching in schools, we would be going back to Lebanon. I promise you. That crosses the line beyond the threshold of that is just in like a child being told to question their gender or entertaining a child's views on their own gender. That's just not conceivable. Now as an adult, it's different, right? And as an adult, in conservative families there could be trouble as an adult, but it could probably be resolved eventually. But you know I think people ignore the fact that people have this idea that if we give any credit to conservatives, then all of leftism is just, like people get this tribalistic mentality. They just start to agree with anything leftists say, regardless of truth. Nobody cares about truth anymore. They just care about, like fucking what this means in the like people call me a fascist and people call me, oh, Haas is a fascist and a right winger and all this shit. Not that I care, but it's like I don't know what they're trying to say because I was never part of their tribe and your tribe in the first place. Like I'm someone who speaks my mind. I say what I believe is true. And if you have to classify me and categorize me in some way, that's not really my problem. But it's just interesting that there's a classification for people who just fit outside of the politically correct bubble. That everyone who's outside of that bubble is just a fascist. And okay, then if that's all fascism means, then 99% of this globe is fascist.
Fascist, yeah. Like the thing you said about how, where you come from, a child questioning their gender or whatever would be completely, out of bounds. But like, I mean, for, I don't want to, speak for you or anything like that, but like, a lot of cultures would probably, have much different views regarding like, women's rights too, so we don't say like, oh, we shouldn't teach like, women to have equal rights as men in school and stuff like that. Like, like, but in other cultures that would be completely,
look, if you have a conservative family that has different values, then I don't think a society, for example, if you have a Muslim family that has different values and they say you have to be abstinent before marriage, I don't think the society has a right to come and say, no, sex is safe and you can do it whenever you want. Just here, have a condom. That's a form of chauvinism against some cultures, right? The issue of women's rights is of no concern to Westerners at all when it comes to Islamic or Muslim culture. That is something entirely internal to what Muslim women themselves are, where they're coming from, right?
Right.
And some Muslim women completely agree with the West and are 100% westernized, but they're a very small minority. The majority of Muslim women in this world who are fighting for women's rights do not want to abandon, let's say, traditional gender roles of Islamic civilization at their most fundamental level, according to which, there is a difference between men and women. Just in the sense of like, they're not the same thing. And that sex is not just some like, like they don't want to create a culture of like fucking, complete sexual openness. Let's just say where like, everyone's completely casual and there's no boundaries or restrictions. That's just not where the majority of Muslim women are coming from. And they do have their own thing that they have going on, but that's not something you have to, something you have to address from the outside is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know. I think that most people don't, have any problem with trans people in America.
Yeah, I don't think they do either.
So
But I think
like,
people get scared when people say, "Oh yeah, we want to expose your kids to start doubting what gender they are and introduce that kind of confusion." I think that terrifies the fuck out of people, right? And I don't
I
think that makes them transphobic
I
or
don't know, but
whatever.
yeah, but I will say I think a lot of that, uh, and I don't, I'm not in school, I'm not in elementary school these days. I have no idea what's going on.
Specifically, one of the things I think doesn't resonate with the majority of people is the idea that gender is a choice. I think a lot of trans people don't agree that it's a choice. A lot of trans people
Mhm.
don't say, oh, I just chose to become transgender.
Right,
They
right. They
say,
didn't choose that. Yeah,
I was
exactly.
born this way. This is me who at my
Right.
most fundamental. This is
Mhm.
exactly, this is actually objectively me at my most real, right? So this idea that it's just a choice, I think is just insulting to so many people because they realize it's not a choice, right? Like it's about who you are. And um the idea that you can abstract yourself from that and just like choose like a consumer doesn't resonate with most human beings.
Yeah, I don't really. I'm not familiar with the, what you're talking about. I didn't know that that's like a talking point personally, but like I think that's maybe like kind of like a bastardization of what what people are the consensus around like what is like transgender and stuff like that. Because like a lot of conservatives would be like, oh, so what? I would just wake up one day and now I'm a woman. Like what is like that doesn't make any sense. Blah blah blah. Right? Like I don't know if that's like really authentically what people are how active like the transgender advocates
Well,
and
listen, a lot
transgender
of
people
this
are saying
stuff
themselves.
is top down and it comes from universities. And in the universities, that is what is being taught. It's being taught that, especially if you look at the thinkers like Judith Butler and this idea of performativity, whatever the fuck, performativity, critical, yeah. They kind of just coming from this perspective like, oh yeah, gender is a complete arbitrary construct and there's no they make this distinction gender essentialism versus gender subjectivism or whatever, where you can just choose whatever gender you feel comfortable with and you can just make everything fluid and you should overthrow all binaries and binary genders and whatever. I just think that then people get out of the universities and they try to force this on normal people and it doesn't work, right? And then they're taught to call those people reactionaries and fascists, where they never questioned whether they were coming from a place of reality to begin with.
I'm not sure like how much of that is like actually trickling down outside of like the internet. But like so like just to kind of bring this back to Dave Chappelle, like I don't understand. Like I understand that maybe there's some kind of sentiment that he's expressing authentically and stuff like that. But like a lot of things that people maybe you have an issue with in life. Like, do you have to express that? And I mean, especially to millions of people on Netflix or whatever. Like, do you have to take out your or verbalize your like grievances with the world? Like, like and especially with other people, like maybe
Yeah,
for
I
like
do
certain things,
because
but
I think the reason Dave Chappelle's dub because this happened to him first. I don't actually know exactly what started it. I think he just told a joke and they tried to cancel him for it, and at that point they declared war. And the reason he doubled down was because it wasn't only about the thing he was talking about anymore. It was also about taking a stance on this phenomena of trying to filter language and trying to make language somehow wholesome, which is this antithetical not only to comedy but to what Dave Chappelle thinks is truth. But he is genuinely trying to give expression to what he considers the truth. And like for example, I'll give you my example, right? Like I have a lot of people. I used to have people. I had people before coming. They tried to debate me when it comes to misogyny, right? They were like, "Oh, Haas, what do you think about women?" And I prefer to say, "I hate women. Fuck them. Whatever. I'm misogynist," as being sarcastic, right?
Mhm.
But it would really pain me. It would pain me and be unthinkable for me to be like, "Oh, women. Oh, I really like women. I believe in women's equality." Like that just seems so fake and inauthentic to me. I could never say that. And the reason I could never say that is because if I truly, had positive views about women, that has to be unspoken. To me, just to say that is constructing a fake world, an inauthentic world that actually doesn't give expression to the actual contradictions of reality. Like, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna virtue signal? I think that's the issue. I don't want to virtue signal to these people and tell them that I'm safe for you. I'm wholesome for you. I'm part of your ideological universe. I'm part of your discourse. I'm part of your language. I'm part of your tribe. It's okay. You can watch me. No, I don't. I don't believe that. Because here's the issue. When people have these purity testing things, we're like, oh, okay, Haas is safe. He said he actually really likes women and he's equality, whatever. Guess what? That's how people sneak shit in. Like, a dude who's going around calling himself a feminist is basically telling people and women, okay, don't worry, I'm one of the safe ones. But the truth is, there's no such thing as a man who's not one of the safe ones. We're men. All men are fucking, in a way, dangerous. All men in a way are fucking strangers and just other men. And women have to trust men based on their personal character, at knowing them personally. You know what I mean? So, and that's not just the case with women. It's true for race. It's probably true for sexual minorities. It's true for anything. You can't make someone safe just because they're fucking being political. That's really dangerous. That's how children are starting to being victimized on the internet. Because all these wholesome Minecraft people and Fortnite's, YouTubers or whatever, oh, they're so safe and wholesome, but then behind the scenes, they're abusing children. Because you just gave that person a pass. You just gave them an ability to be like a good person just by reciting some formalistic bullshit,
I don't know. I just think that, some speech that does genuinely have negative impacts. And like, I don't think that should be celebrated or I'm not saying cancel the guy or, take his job, all this kind of stuff.
I don't think it has
a lot of people have a problem
impact.
with what you're saying. Like that is also some kind of reality.
What do you think he said that would have a negative impact? For example,
I don't know. I think he misgendered and he kind of made a mockery of trans people. I'm not saying he did it, bigotedly or whatever, but a lot of people who are bigoted against trans people heard that and loved it. They felt reinforced. They felt legitimized in their beliefs that trans people are weird. Blah, blah, blah.
But what if Dave Chapelle fundamentally believes that everyone is worthy of mockery as a comedian? That we're all worthy of mockery because we live in an absurd world. And attempting to take ourselves seriously to such an extent that we can't be made fun of. He just doesn't believe that that's legitimate.
Yeah, I guess that would be fair, but I'm sure he would draw a line. That's the thing. It's easy to kind of say that. Oh, I make fun of trans people. I make fun of everybody.
But it's all based on the internal logic of comedy. If he's crossing a line, it's no longer funny.
Well, I mean, it seems like, and maybe, I understand what your position completely. You explained it very well. But don't you think that there is some legitimacy to the people that have a problem with it? Like, I mean, I know that you don't think it was across the line or anything like that, but it seems like a lot of people did. Probably millions of people, I would say. I'm sure a lot of people like it too.
But it's a controversial topic. Right? Those people are trying to. Those people are trying to create an artificial and alternative reality that's divorced from the majority of people, and I don't see why their fake reality.
Majority though, that's so I don't know. So because let's just say they're in the minority of people, and they're trying to force this on the majority. Is that still so they should just shut up?
What? Well, I mean, I don't. Look, I don't know why we have an obligation to care about what they say. When a conservative comedian, a Republican comedian, right, goes into the camera and he tells jokes, he is specifically addressing the politically correct people and he's saying, hey, fuck you, right? So they overlook it because they're like, okay, we know where he stands, right? He's against us. Here's our fortress, and those are the bad guys. So they get that. But Dave Chappelle's issue is that he literally just didn't even care about them. He didn't even acknowledge them. He was giving he was the egregious crime of Dave Chappelle, and this is the truth, is that he's giving expression to the fact that there is a more or less ideologically neutral reality, politically neutral reality, even in a sense. There's some authentic, truthful reality that you can give expression to without signaling to even either side, right? And that terrifies these gatekeepers who want to have a tax. They want to tax everyone who tries to talk about reality in some kind of way.
Yeah. So and then okay. So then, how is this different from like Steven Crowder? Like, is it just like
because Steven Crowder can't get over the politically correct people. He tries to go out of his way to Steven Crowder just still assumes that the only choice is between the politically correct and just the exact opposite of them, right? Which is going out of your way to be edgy. But there is a third alternative, which is basically giving expression to authentic truth without regard for what anyone thinks.